Hello there, this is Dr. Mintz. This is an MR angiogram of the great vessels. Here you can see the aortic arch in an AP projection. If we oblique the projection, then you can see that opens up the arch more fully. That's because the arch is arching upward and backward as we see it going from here to here. So there is shortening of the apparent width of the arch in the AP plane, and you get a more true view of the diameter of this arch on this oblique view. So here we have the great vessels. You have the brachiocephalic artery, which gives rise to the right common carotid artery and the right subclavian artery, and then the left common carotid artery comes off directly from the aortic arch, and then the left subclavian artery comes off directly from the aortic arch. If you look at the subclavian artery on the right and the left, you see a small vessel emanating from it. Here you see one on the left coming up and coursing superiorly, and then on the right, similarly, this vessel, these are the vertebral arteries. So the vertebral arteries originate at the subclavian artery, and they course up along the neck in the foramen transversarium of the vertebra at multiple levels of the cervical spine, and then it goes through this little detour before the two of them enter the skull vault at about this level, and then the two vertebral arteries join to form the basilar artery at that point. So you have the brachiocephalic artery giving rise to the right common carotid artery and the right subclavian artery. The right subclavian artery gives rise to the right vertebral artery. You have the left common carotid artery, and then you have the left subclavian artery. The left subclavian artery giving rise to the left vertebral artery. So in this obliquity, we can see the right vertebral artery and the left vertebral artery coursing upwards, entering the skull vault, and then fusing to form the basilar artery right here. So this structure here is immediately ventral to the brain stem, to give you an idea of where we are here. Okay, so here you have the aortic arch, you have the brachiocephalic artery. Now there's a brachiocephalic vein on both sides. There's a right brachiocephalic vein and a left brachiocephalic vein, but unlike that, in the arterial realm, we have only one brachiocephalic artery. So we don't have to call it the right brachiocephalic artery. In fact, that would be incorrect. It is the brachiocephalic artery because it's the only one, and it gives rise to the right common carotid artery and right subclavian artery. The right subclavian artery then gives rise to the vertebral artery, the right vertebral artery. The right common carotid artery branches to form the right internal carotid artery and the right external carotid artery. Okay, so there again you have the right common carotid artery giving rise to the right internal carotid artery and the right external carotid artery. You can identify the external carotid artery on either side because it has branches going off to it that are supplying blood to structures in the head and neck, including the face area. Whereas the internal carotid artery, in this case the right internal carotid artery, has a straight shot upward before it enters the skull vault, and you don't see any branches coming off the right internal carotid artery. That is a vessel dedicated to supplying blood to the brain. Let's look at on the other side now. So we have brachiocephalic artery giving rise to the right subclavian artery and the right common carotid artery. We see the right vertebral artery coming off the right subclavian artery. We see the right common carotid artery branching into a right internal carotid artery and right external carotid artery. Now on the left side we have the left common carotid artery coming right off the aortic arch. That left common carotid artery bifurcates into the left internal carotid artery and the left external carotid artery. Here you can see the left external carotid artery immediately giving off little branches that are supplying the soft tissues in that region of the head and neck and facial area. The vertebral artery courses superiorly in the foramen transversarium of the cervical spine at multiple levels, and then does this loop before it enters the cranial vault. And after it enters the cranial vault, it fuses on both sides. The right and left vertebral artery fuse to form the basilar artery, and the basilar artery is immediately ventral to the brain stem. It's in fact pretty much ventral to the pons, immediately ventral to that. Okay, so these are the great vessels. This is fundamental anatomy to know. So we have an aortic arch. The aortic arch gives rise to the right brachiocephalic artery, which is correctly the brachiocephalic artery because there is no left brachiocephalic artery. So this is the brachiocephalic artery. Then you have the left common carotid artery, and then you have the left subclavian artery. So brachiocephalic artery, left common carotid artery, left subclavian artery. And then the carotid arteries both give rise to an internal and external carotid artery, and the vertebral arteries arise from the subclavian arteries on both sides and course superiorly before entering the skull vault, where they then fuse to create the basilar artery, which is ventral to the pons. Here's a lateral view. You can see the two vertebral arteries paralleling one another's course, the two carotid arteries paralleling one another's course. Here's a submental vertex view, which doesn't do really much of anything for me. So this is fundamental anatomy, and I hope this is a helpful review for you.